Afternoon, I'm Manqoba. It is that time of the day when we give you an update on how far some of the stories we've been following up for you today have advanced. Here's your lunchtime update. Our reporters are out and about, bringing you the latest on today's top stories. As you can see there, I'm joined by Manqoba Mchunu out on the M1 highway going south. Kevin Brundt is in Worcester for us in the Western Cape. Manqoba, let me start with you. Of course, a shootout last night between police and suspects, suspected CIT robbers, that is, on the M1 highway resulted in the closure of the road. One suspect killed, two taken in custody. You're back there today, so I'm assuming the scene is still active?
Well, certainly, Maseko. In fact, I'm just going to step out of shot so that you can see here what's happening on the freeway. As we speak, Maseko, that freeway remains closed to traffic both on the south and the north of the freeway as police are still here. The forensic teams are still combing the scene. Following that shootout that happened here yesterday. What we understand, Maseko, is that they managed to trace these suspects from a cash and transit heist that had happened in Springs yesterday around about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And we understand that the suspect had forced a cash and transit van to a halt, and then they had then robbed and disarmed those guards from that particular incident. They then managed to escape with an undisclosed amount of cash. And this is up until they came to this point on the M1 freeway where the police had then traced them to this particular spot. This is where they were then apprehended by the police, and we understand that a shootout had then ensued between the robbers and the police, and in that shootout one of the suspects was shot and killed, and two of them, we understand, were also apprehended and arrested by police. But we also understand that one of the police officers who was involved in that particular shootout also sustained some injuries as a result of that shootout that had happened here. But as far as investigations are concerned, Maseko, we understand that police are still looking for more suspects that might have been involved in this particular incident. We understand that they managed to confiscate quite a number of rifles, 3 rifles, as well as some of the items that were used in that cash in transit heist. But as things stand, Maseko, the traffic has still not been allowed to pass here as they still process this particular scene. But also we do understand that the police are saying that they are still investigating the circumstances around this. We understand that they also managed to recover bags of money that had been empty at the time. So the investigation are still continuing, and a manhunt is still underway for some of the suspects that are also believed to have been involved in this particular matter.
All right, let's also bring in Bafedile Moerane, who in fact joins us from Lenasia. But before I come to you, Bafedile, let me start with Kevin. Of course, a tough few days for Western Cape residents following those heavy rains that lashed through the province, flooding in people's homes. You've been covering the mop-up operations. Have you been able to speak to families who are, for instance, still looking for their loved ones, or people who lost their family members?
Very good afternoon to you, Maseko. Yesterday, of course, we heard from the Western Cape government officials indicating that all the municipalities affected by the storm as well as the heavy rainfall will now be conducting assessments to try and ascertain the extent of, in particular, first of all, very important for this region as well, the infrastructure damage, not only to the towns itself, but also these areas are heavily reliant on agriculture, driving the local economies here. Today I've made my way out to the Bafedile Valley municipality, and we were very close to a town called Durance. There's a community there situated very closely to a mountain range. They explained that when the heavy rains poured down on Sunday evening into the early hours of Monday morning, large volumes of water came down from that mountain range, gushing its way just narrowly past that community and creating now what resembles something that looks like a river. It's normally not there. And residents explained their fear, their frustration. Some of them painted a picture of being helpless in that moment when a lot of the neighbors and families within that area came out calling each other to come and see the devastation that is underway outside. So in this area, the officials say that luckily there were no injuries reported to the authorities, also no fatalities. However, Theodore Botha, he is from the fire department here within the municipality, explained that even though nothing was reported, it doesn't mean that no injuries occurred. But as I've said, municipalities and officials on the ground to do assessments with regard to that, but also to see how relief aid can be distributed to these affected residents. Just listen to what he had to say, Maseko.
Fortunately, our community are very resilient, so they help each other, and they also try and recover quite quickly. But areas where we are providing assistance are the Moddergat farm area, where people have been completely isolated as a result of the level of the river. Also in Dorings area and Gigi camp in the Dorings, where, and as you know, there was quite extensive damage to the N1 and the road infrastructure, and thus people were cut off. But we are currently providing social relief in the form of food packages, water, blankets, and other assistance to the community. In the Moddergat area, we're looking at a number of more than 100 people. In the Dorings area farm community, there's approximately 80 people that has been cut off. And then in the Gigi camp and in the Dorings area, we're looking at approximately 500 to 600 households, but that includes also the informal settlement. They are not entirely cut off, but the roads infrastructure has been restored. But some of the roads are still closed, and we're busy with repairs at the moment.
All right, Bafedile, let's come to you. Of course, City Power continuing with its campaign to switch off or disconnect illegal electricity connections. This time it's in Lenasia today. The agency saying it's owed about 20 million rand by residents. How much is it hoping to recoup today?
A smooth operation. We have seen in most places where City Power has actually been continuing with the operation being met with resistance, residents having to confront the officials. So this morning we started at one residential area in Lenasia town there, where actually residents had to residents were saying that they've actually been paying money to the owner, but the owner could not take that particular money to ensure that it reaches City Power. So we've also went to a number of businesses, Maseko, where we understand that the businesses there owe about 4.4 billion rand, 4.4 million rand, among other businesses that have been targeted this morning. So the City Power is really saying that for quite some time right now, since the operation, they are seeing positive results, because at the end, those who have been switched off, they have to come forward. Residential areas have to pay about 15% of the money that they are owing, and also the businesses have to at least come pay 50%. So they are saying that in a number of places that they have visited, Maseko, they have actually been receiving a positive feedback at this point in time, after saying that they are losing about 27 million rand or over that annually because of the failure of payment from residents and businesses in most parts across the city of Johannesburg. We earlier spoke to Mr. Nelson Ravuka, who is the regional service delivery manager of City Power in this area. Let us listen to what he said to us there.
The amount that today we are owed by these 6 customers is more than 20 million. But in total, when we check our debt book, Lenasia, we are owed more than 1 billion by this customer who are illegally connecting themselves. So if you look at this, it's not only, it's a residential and business. So we've got the business down, and then we've got resident up. So the total amount that they are owing us, it's 4.4 million rand. So what happened with these customers, if you check today, we're disconnecting them, we're applying level 3 cutoff. So we cut them, and then they reconnect themselves, and then we cut them. So before we apply level 3 cutoff, so we need to cut you 2 times. So this one is the 3rd time. That's why we're applying level 3 cutoff, where we're going to also remove the cable.
All right, that was your eNCA lunchtime update from all angles with reporters Manqoba Mchunu, Kevin Brundt and Bafedile Moerane. Thank you, team.